Let's update this Facebook Marketplace find. Hey guys, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. I am Lauren and I am the Furniture Flipping Teacher. I recently resigned as a full-time kindergarten teacher, and actually school would be starting right about now for us. So this is kind of a bittersweet moment where I'm not in the classroom, but I'm here with you guys on YouTube, but I'm a forever teacher. So I am here to teach you guys how I take old and outdated furniture and give it a new purpose and a new life, in hopes of inspiring a creative way for you to take old and outdated furniture and give it a new purpose and a new life for some extra income or to update the furniture in your own home. Today, we are gonna be making over this antique dresser. It is in beautiful condition. There are a few blemishes and some peeling veneer, but I am going to fix that right up. And we are going to be using melange paints for this flip because I have the perfect color for what I think is going to just make this dresser much lighter and brighter. So let's get started by removing the hardware. I always start by removing the hardware and keeping it in a safe place so that way I can come back at the end and then reattach that same hardware. Or if I change my mind on the hardware that I want at the end, I can always just keep this in my stash for other projects. A lot of the time you'll see that the older antique furniture has the flathead screws as opposed to a Phillips head screw. So keep that in mind when you are refinishing older furniture, that you'll need to have a flathead screwdriver or a flathead drill bit in stash. We're getting ready for cleaning, so I'm also going to be taking the drawers out. That way I can clean all in there and on here much easier. This hardware is super unique and I'm excited. Right now my plan is to reuse it, but you never know. I might change my mind yet again and have it go with the lighter, brighter feel that I'm kind of going for. We'll have to see. As I remove the hardware and the drawers, I'm going to number the drawers. It's something that you should do for sure because when you take them out and then you put them back in, you need them to go in the same spots. I've learned this over time because sometimes if you don't put them in the exact right spot that they're meant for, they don't go in right, and then it's just a big hassle trying to figure out which one goes where. Sometimes with hardware removal, you don't even need a screwdriver. It just twists right off, so you can always test it out that way as well. All right, we got all the hardware off, so our next step is cleaning. I decided before I clean that I'm going to remove this back decoration, and it's just nailed in a couple of times, it looks like to me. So I'm just gonna take my hammer, my new hammer that I got from Home Depot, and remove these. Usually these more antique vintage dressers or chests have like an indentation that these are basically sitting on, but this one doesn't. This one was just nailed into the back, so it might have been a later addition, or it just might have been that the way that this one was made, or it could have even had a mirror on it at one point. Who knows? But I'm glad that there's not that little indentation there because then I don't have to worry about that looking funky at all. Now we can clean. So I'm gonna use Dawn dish soap to clean, and when you're cleaning, you just need to make sure that your cleaner is a degreaser, and Dawn dish soap is a degreaser, so that will work fine as a little bit of a less harsh cleaner if you are interested in that. The reason that we're cleaning is to get all of the grease and oils and dirt and grime off of our surface before we apply any paint, or else the paint won't adhere correctly, and then we'll have failing paint and a horrible finish. It'll crack and all of that, and it's just something that you want to avoid by cleaning your piece before even starting. All right, we are finished with cleaning. Now, before we move on to sanding, we need to make sure that our surface is dry, but then also I need to check for any imperfections in the veneer. It might be chipping or there might be cracks in it and so on. When I was cleaning, I didn't see anything on the base, but mostly the damage is on the drawers. So right here, there's a little bit of missing veneer, so I will definitely need to fill that in. And then also here, and then there's some on this bottom drawer right there. There's some here on this corner. And then the last one that I just noticed is up here. And this is actually peeling back, but it's not too bad. Depending how it looks, I might even just be able to glue that down and clamp it and then put some wood filler on that spot that's missing some. If it's not peeling off completely, then I would recommend just trying to repair it by putting some glue there. That way you don't have to patch as much with quick wood or wood filler. So I'm gonna go grab my quick wood and then we're gonna fill in these areas. All right, so like I said, I'm going to put some glue right under this little piece of veneer. And then we're gonna clamp it down. Well, we're gonna have to get that excess glue off there. And then also, I would like to get some quick wood on that spot right there, but I'm not for sure if I'm gonna be able to until after that wood glue dries, honestly. All right, that's gonna be perfect right there. So let's get the quick wood out. Again, quick wood is just an epoxy-based wood filler. It has 2 parts, and then you just grab a little bit and mix them together. When they mix together, you have about 15 to 20 minutes before it actually hardens. And it's just like a chemical reaction in there. So you mix them together until you get one consistent color, like so. And then I take this and I fill the areas that need to be filled. I got all of the areas filled with quick wood. I've got a little bit left over, but it is what it is, because again, once this is mixed together, there's no saving it unless you use it, because it's going to harden regardless if you put it in a baggie or anything like that, because the two are mixed now. While the quick wood is drying, I'm gonna get started on sanding down the base, and I'm actually gonna be sanding the top finish all the way off of the top of the base and the front 2 legs. And I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do that efficiently. I'm gonna be using my Surf Prep sander for taking all of the finish off of the top and the front 2 legs. And if you're interested in grabbing your own Surf Prep sander, be sure to visit the link down below, and then also use my code FFT10 for 10% off of your entire purchase. I've got my Surf Prep hooked up to a vacuum festool dust extractor, and that's going to really help eliminate any of the dust. So really I could sand inside without much dust kicking up, but I'm still going to be using my mask just for a little bit of extra caution and safety. Technically I wouldn't really need to wear a mask since that vacuum is vacuuming and sucking up all of the dust. I'm going to be using an 80 grit to get all the way down. I just finished with the 80 grit flat sanding sheet, but now I am going to be getting onto the edges, and it's kind of beveled and there's a little bit of a curve. So I am going to switch out my attachment here, and I'm going to take the flat sandpaper off, and then I'm going to add on a foam padding that's going to allow me to get around those different curves because it is squishy. And then I'm going to reattach I'm going to actually get a new 80 grit to also take off the finish around there, and I'm just going to line up the holes. The holes are for the vacuum part, and then we're going to fire it up and go around the edges to where it is going to mold and just get around those curves as it should, so that I'm not flattening out any of the curves over there. We are moving down to the legs here, and again, I've still got my foam abrasive here so that it can mold to the legs because they're curved. So unless you have this type of sander addition, then you're gonna have to sand by hand, which that's no fun, trust me. So I'm really glad that I've got this surf prep. This quality alone, not having to sand this by hand, makes this investment worth it on its own for me. Now that I'm finished sanding, I am going to wipe the dust back with my microfiber cloth just so that it doesn't get into my paint when I begin that step. When you're scuff sanding, you really don't need to break the finish. I did break the finish on a couple of spots when I was sanding through the quick wood. So what I'm gonna do is, since the paint that I'm using has a built-in primer, I'm not worried about everywhere else, but I just wanna do a little extra step, and I'm gonna spray a little bit of shellac-based primer on those spots where I broke through the finish. That way I know that there's gonna be no bleed through. But since this is an older antique dresser, I know that it's a really big possibility because it tends to happen more with older pieces like this. Before I do a little bit of the primer, I am gonna tape off the legs just so that I don't get any primer or paint on them. Good on the tape. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't gonna get any on the legs when I am painting, and I'm mostly worried about the part that's right up against there. So this part down here, not too worried about because I'm not going to be spraying anything. I'm going to grab my spray primer just so that I can spray the spots where I broke through the finish. I got my bin shellac-based primer here, and this is going to be that stain blocker. So I'm just going to spray a bit of that onto the drawers where I broke through the finish, and then that'll dry for just a few minutes. All right, I think we're good there, and so that's just gonna dry for a little bit, but in the meantime, I'm gonna get started painting the base. The color that we are going to be using is Artemisia Green, and it's kind of a blue-gray green. I kind of got some on my finger. You can see what it looks like when it's dry, but it's a really pretty color, and I've been dying to use this. I know I say that every single time, but Melange just keeps coming out with these amazing colors. They're coming out with 5 new green shades in the month of August, so be on the lookout for that. I am going to be pouring it in to another container as I usually do, just so that my brush can fit in there. And I actually have some fun news. Melange reached out to me and told me that they wanted to name this brush after me. So if you go to their website and you check this brush out, it's called the Lauren brush. This is my favorite brush, so that was kind of a fun little addition to their website and just a fun way to kind of show their thanks to me, but then also to you guys, because you guys have been supporting their small business so much, and it is so appreciated by both me and them. So we're gonna get some paint on this guy. First coat of paint is all finished up, and I'm just gonna let it dry for a little while before I come back with coat number 2. But honestly, coat number 1 had some pretty good coverage, especially where I primed it. So yeah, it should only take one more coat, even though it's a lighter color. And then I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do to the top and to the legs to make them all come together. We're back for coat number 2, and this should go on pretty quick. Everything is all smoothed out. Remember, Melange is a self-leveling paint. Alrighty, coat number 2 is finished up. So while that's drying, I am going to move on to the raw wood, and we are gonna be using wood bleach for the very first time. Alright, so with the bleach, you wanna be extra cautious. I've got gloves on, I've got eyeglasses on, and then I'm gonna be applying it with a brush. And the bleach solution that I'm going to be using has 2 parts, and we're gonna start with part A, and this is actually by Zinsser. I'll link it down below in the description. You can actually find this on Amazon. I am gonna start with solution A, and I'm gonna put it on my surface. The reason that I wanna do a wood bleach is just because if you notice, these 2 tones of wood don't match. The reason is because this is actually a veneer top. And so I want to basically make these match. I'm going to be focusing mostly on the top here and then on the legs down below. So it tells me that I need to have it unfinished, which I do. I stripped it back completely with my sandpaper, and then you need to wear gloves, and then you don't mix the contents of both solution A and B together. We need to put this on, and then we need to put the solution B on about 5 or 10 minutes after this one is on there, but it still should be wet, so we've just got to do it right at the right time. It looks like I need to saturate the entire area, and then we'll just let it do its thing. I'm just gonna start with a little bit here and then just brush it out. Solution A is on, and it's been about 5 minutes since I've done the top, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab solution B to put that on. You can see the reactions happening, and it's kind of cool, but Solution B is on, and that tells me that it has to dry all the way overnight. So we're done for the day, and all I've got left is, once that is all dry, I will sand back the residue that it creates, and then I'll be able to tell if I like the finish that is there, if it lightened enough for me, which I'm crossing my fingers that it's only gonna take one application to get to where I like it. And then after that, I will be able to top coat everything and put the hardware back on, and we'll be finished. So pretty close to being done on this thing. We've just gotta let this dry overnight. It's the morning and our wood bleach is dry, and I can already see that it has done a really good job in bleaching this wood, and it made it a lot lighter. And now the last thing that the directions on the bottle says to do is to sand out the kind of like salty flakes that it kind of made. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I already did just a little test swatch back here, and it's really lightening up, so I'm really happy with the results. Here's the test swatch, and then here's the part that I haven't sanded yet. Sanding's done, and it really lightened up these legs. My next step is I'm actually going to be doing a paint wash on the legs and the top, just to even everything out so that it's one consistent color, but I'm still going to keep it that light wood tone. So I'm going to go grab the paint. All right, we are going to do a paint wash. So I'm going to be using Dixie Belle's Putty for my paint wash. I've used this once before for a paint wash, and I really liked the results. So my goal is to get the same results. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit in this container. Probably way too much, actually. Let me just pour a little bit of that back. All right, and then I'm going to be pouring some water in, and I'm not really measuring, but it's gonna be about 1-to-1 ratios for the paint wash. I'm thinning out the paint because we don't necessarily want it to have full coverage. We just want it to be a little bit more transparent, and the wood is kind of gonna soak it in. This wash is going to allow me to have a consistent color across the top, and this part that's still not quite all the way the same color. So now that I have a pretty good consistency of my paint wash, I'm gonna go ahead and use it. I'm gonna be using this zebra brush. Now that I've got full coverage on the top, I'm gonna use my lint-free cloth to wipe it back. This is going to help me with my consistent color across, and then it's also going to make sure that it's more transparent. Let's get to the legs. Paint wash was a success. The legs look amazing, the top looks great. So I'm gonna set this back up, and we're gonna go to the top coat, and we're so close to being finished with this dresser. All we've got left is top coat and reattaching of the hardware. Time for the top coat. I'm gonna be using Melange's new top coat, and I've used the satin before, but I'm gonna use the matte finish today, and that's just because I like how it's finished right now, and the paint has a matte finish, but I've got to put this top coat protective over the top so that it can just really protect it over time. And then I'm going to be using this other zebra brush for my top coat, and this is just going to allow me to get good coverage and quick coverage. It's better to use a little bit of a thinner brush like this. finished up with the top coat, and this went on really well. I think I'm just partial to a matte clear coat versus the satin. I just like the finish a lot better, so I'll definitely be sticking with the matte finish, but if you like satin, that one works well too. So my next and last step is to assemble the dresser, and then we'll be able to move it on over to our staging wall and take some photos. So now that I've cleaned the hardware with the classic barkeeper's friend, I am going to go ahead and attach it, and it really cleaned up nicely. It was pretty dark in the beginning, but now it is much more bright and kind of a goldish color. So I like the way that it turned out, and I think that it's going to look much better on here with this color than it would have with the darker, just because it's more of a light and bright dresser instead of a dark drab dresser. So let's go ahead and reattach the hardware and put the drawers in, and then also I'm going to be revitalizing the wood inside with my Howard's Feed and Wax. Boom, we're done. Let's go get this baby staged. I just love it when a vision comes to life. This is exactly what I had in mind for this dresser, and I'm so happy with the results, to the paint color, to the wash, and just the finish. It just looks great. It's better than I probably even imagined it. So I'm so pleased with this flip. I am about $80 into this flip because I got the piece for $70, and then I spent about $10, a little less than $10 on the wood bleach solution. So I am thinking about listing this piece, I'm thinking around $250-ish, maybe a little bit more. We'll see. It is an antique. It's in a really great condition for being an antique, but it's also just a little bit of a different, unique color. So I don't know. Like I said, I always just choose the price when I am actually listing the piece. So I will update you guys. If not in this video, I will update you over on Instagram, but I hope you guys enjoyed this flip. It was so much fun to create, and I'm gonna go list this on Facebook Marketplace now.